Hey, I'm Jerome, and welcome to the Gaming Corner. Today I have something special, and that's Sheol. But before I get into it, I just want to make it clear that this is not really a review, but closer to our first impressions. I've played about halfway through the main campaign, and at this point I feel like I've experienced at least most of the mechanics, and enough of the game to feel like I have a good grasp of what it has to offer. So saying that, let's get started. Welcome to the Island of Light, the last bastion for humanity after the weeping of the moon that caused darkness and shadows to cover the earth. But blessings to the luminary monks who discovered Lux, liquid light, the only weapon that works against the shadows. It is your job as a member of Team Nova to complete missions in the Land of the Night. It's not an easy job, but it's one that must be done. So what exactly is Sheol? Now that's a pretty hard question to answer. Initially I wanted to say it was a tower defense game, but the more I play it and the more I get to know it, it's giving it a bit of a disservice because it's so many different genres and mechanics mixed into it that you couldn't just call it that. It's a tower defense game mixed with city development, character progression, exploration, all wrapped up with a interesting story in a pretty unique world and setting. Before I tell you my thoughts on the game, I'll tell you more about the specifics of the game and how it goes from round to round. So saying that, Sheol is made out of 13 main mission campaigns, along with 19 side missions if you also include the expansions. In one of these missions, or chapters, you're going to be trying to progress through these mission cards. These mission cards are unique to that chapter, and as you reveal one, it will tell you a bit about the story, it will give you some effects, and then the objective that you're trying to complete. When you complete an objective, it may reveal one or multiple cards. If it does reveal multiple cards, then the story might branch off into different directions, allowing you to do different choices, or it might give you multiple goals that you're trying to achieve to complete that mission. Eventually, you'll get to the card that says victory, and then you've won the mission. This mission is going to be played over multiple rounds, and in each round is split into two phases. You have the Shadow phase and the Scout phase. In the Shadow phase, first you'll start by increasing the menace. This will essentially act as a time tracker for the game. Next, you reveal the threats. This will be a set of specific cards for the mission that will each turn give a negative effect to make the game a bit harder. Next, you would activate the Outer Lords. These are like the big bosses of the game. They have their own reaction decks and AI decks, and able to do massive damage if you're not careful. Next, you activate the Heralds. These are kind of like the mini bosses of the game. They're kind of like the Outer Lords, but they only have a reaction deck, and their AI is a bit more simple, but it's still challenging nonetheless. Shadows come in two forms. They come in either blips or miniatures if you bought the miniature. Then you activate the Shadows. You roll the gravity dice, and then the shadows will move in the direction of whichever axis is shown, either the alpha or the omega. Then finally you will generate shadows. On the board you will have different singularity points. These singularities are where shadows will spawn. The token has two sides, one danger, the other alert. Then depending on if it's in danger or alert, you roll the correct dice, and then you will spawn shadows based on the number that you roll. Then is the second phase, which is the Scout phase. This phase is what is the majority of the game. In the first few sub-phases, it will be essentially upkeep. Here you do your production, refill cards, or recharge your actions and movements. Then you'll be able to do your actions, and here you have a lot of options available to you. One of the central actions you will take is plan action. Here you will take the lantern card and see whatever value it has. From there, you would then draw light stream tiles based on that value. Reveal. Here you also use the lantern card. When you reveal, you'll be removing coral bone, revealing blips to show the other side, and placing down the light stream tiles that you collected. You'll be doing this within the pattern that it shows on your lantern card. Attack. Obviously, this is the action that you're going to take to destroy the shadows and other creatures. First, you roll the dice, and you compare this value to its revealed value. A reveal value will be between 1 to 4, and for these base shadows, when they're blipped, they're going to be at value 0, and when they're revealed, they're going to be 4. So when I roll the dice, if I get a 0, I can hit anything from a 0 upwards. Then, for example, if I got a 2, I would be able to destroy a revealed shadow, but not a blip token that's not revealed yet. After you find out if you hit or not, you then apply the damage that's on the weapon and use the modifier that's on the dice. You can also take land actions. So whenever you're on a discovered land, you could do one of 3 things. One is build a facility. Throughout the game, you will unlock these facilities. An example of this is the Umbra Extractor. The Umbra Extractor would generate Umbra each turn, and you can use Umbra as a sense of currency. You can also deploy and activate printers. These are essentially like shops, where depending on the land that you're on, will reveal certain cards. These items can be bought with Umbra by any scouts connected to that land. Finally is exploration, where you find the card that is linked to the land. Then you would read the story and then make a choice out of all the options that you have. Sometimes these choices can also be challenges. Then, depending on which choice you make, or if you succeed or fail the challenge, you will have different outcomes. All these outcomes will either be good or bad or anywhere in between, but no matter what, you will also get these faction tokens that you can use in between missions during the development phase. Along with actions, you also have free actions. Here you can use your items, accessory, and even districts that you've unlocked throughout the campaign. You can also use these light shield cards. These light shield cards have multiple uses. One, they have the effect that it says on the card. 2, you can also discard your card to give you a discount on a particular action. Then finally, you can use your light shield cards as shields. This will protect you from damage from one of the shadows or something worse. However, the free action that you're going to use the most is the movement action. As you move, you can place down the light stream tiles that you collected with your plan action. Some of these light stream tiles have icons. This icon will give you extra movement, while this icon will protect you from damage. With these light stream tiles, you use them to explore the land of the night, going to lands yet to be discovered and linking them back to the Citadel. As you use these actions or free actions, you'll often be spending Lux. Here, you'll be able to see your Lux tracker. As you spend Lux, it will go down, and then over here you have the amount of vials you have. So after you go past 0, you'll then reduce the number down to 1 until you run out. The tricky thing here is that Lux is also your life. So that means you have to be really careful about overextending yourself to the point where you might die at any moment. But saying that, when you do run out of Lux, what will happen before you die is that you'll become corrupted. When you become corrupted, you will flip over your player card and your tracker, and here some things will change. You will have a limited amount of Lux. The amount of light shield cards you hold will reduce, along with the movement. But the cool thing here is that your special effect, when you're critical, will actually become stronger than what it is when you're not corrupted. But to summarize all of that, you're going to be using your scouts and the equipment that they've unlocked throughout the campaign to complete the mission for that chapter, all while trying to defend your citadel from being destroyed by the shadows. I know that's a lot of information, and honestly there's a lot more I could talk about, but I want to start getting into my thoughts. But just before that, I just want to make a note that this game was created by a first-time designer of Lunar Oak Studio. But the unfortunate thing that it was kickstarted during an unstable time for both production and shipping, yet Lunar Oak Studio created an ambitious product, especially for a first-time creator. The game really makes you feel as if you're alone in the dark, surrounded by enemies, and if you make one wrong turn, it's all over. There's something very satisfying yet scary when you finish a mission and you look down and you see all the enemies, and then you realize, just in 1 or 2 turns, you would have been dead. I love that light, or Lux, is not just a way that guides you through the darkness, but it's also a weapon, and it's also your life source. If your light runs out in the dark, you're gonna die. And on top of all of that, corruption adds a sprinkle of lore and immersion through its mechanics. It's your last-ditch effort to push through before the darkness takes over. One of the most impressive aspects of the game is that even though it has so many different mechanics, it flows surprisingly well. None of the individual mechanics are too complicated, but all the mechanics act like a spiderweb where they all interact with each other. On top of that, many of these actions have multiple options. It could be the card, the land, the upgrades. This really allows you to play the way that you want to play and makes it feel like it's your story. The game really feels like a sandbox where they just chuck a puzzle at you, and it's up to you to solve it the way that you want to do it. And so far, at least it feels like it's been the perfect balance where every time I finish a mission I just scrape through. Alright, now time for the dislikes. Starting with the rules and the rulebook. Sometimes the rules can feel a bit ambiguous and you have to figure it out yourself or go to a forum where you can find the answer. The rulebook is big, dense, and full of icons, so sometimes it can be hard to find the rule that you're looking for, or you can just miss it completely. But the biggest issue is the omission of rules. There are some key rules that are just not in the book. I would say the worst culprit of this is the fact that it doesn't say what happens when you take damage. Honestly, I feel like the rulebook needed another revision, because honestly, once you get past that hurdle, I think the rulebook works quite well, especially for such a complex game. It explains everything quite well and in a really good order that by the end of it, you get a good grasp of what the game is. Especially since the first 5 missions is like a tutorial. By the time you finish the first 5 missions, then you really have a good grasp of how to handle the game. The final issue I have is quality of some of the final products, specifically in the all-in Kickstarter. The game was advertised as premium from the start, with a deluxe box that stores everything. However, these are some of the issues that I had. The deluxe box is reinforced with this tape, making it quite unpleasant from the outside. The box is just big enough to fit everything, so it makes it really hard to put the game both in and out. So now what I have to do is keep the box on the side. The expansion boxes are made with thin cardboard. It does the job, but it's easy to tear. In the core box, everything has a place except these tokens. The box has a slot for the tokens, but these tokens are too big and these tokens are too small. However, there's still more than enough space in the box to give everything a spot comfortably. But saying that, I have to admit that the core box is very high quality. The box uses thick cardboard, and all the boards and tokens use a nice thick cardboard that doesn't warp. All the miniatures are nicely detailed, and the print on everything is nice and vibrant. I feel Lunar Oak Studios achieved what they set out to make, especially with all the setbacks they had along the way. They have created a high quality product that, although it's complex and fiddly, is still both immersive and rewarding to play. Alright, so using my scoring system, I give this game a 7.6, a great game. But also saying that, if they did a second printing and fixed some of these production issues, I think it would probably be an 8.3. But in the end, I look forward to finishing the game and I think my score will probably rise by the time I finish the game. I think this is a great game that I recommend to anybody that's looking for an immersive campaign that has high complexity and a lot of moving parts. But I wouldn't recommend it to anybody that has analysis paralysis or doesn't have time for long fiddly games. And I really wouldn't recommend it to anybody who has a small table because this game takes a lot of table space. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I hope that gave you a good idea about the game and if the game's good for you. My name is Jerome and I'll catch you next time in the Gaming Corner.